Welcome, everyone. Today, we're going to be delving into a topic that I think is one of the most powerful tools you'll learn, using matrix algebra for sales forecasting. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking, another abstract formula for an exam, but I want you to completely reframe that. What we're talking about today is a genuine competitive advantage in your future careers. This is the stuff that gets you noticed.
So, let me ask you this. Have you ever wondered how companies like Netflix or Amazon just seem to know what you want? Netflix recommends a show you end up loving, or Amazon has a product already waiting in a warehouse near you before you even click buy? Well, you know what? It's not magic, and it's definitely not a coincidence. It's the result of some seriously sophisticated mathematical modeling, and right at the heart of it all is the very thing we're discussing today.
And here it is. This is the fundamental equation that makes it all happen. Now I get it. At first glance, this looks intimidating, right? You've got transposes, inverses, matrices. It's a lot. But I want you to stop seeing it as just a formula. From now on, I want you to think of this as a powerful engine, a business insight engine that takes raw data and turns it into real, actionable strategy.
So to make sure we really wrap our heads around this, here's our game plan for today. First, we'll talk about what this forecasting engine really is in a business context. Then we're going to take that big formula and break it down, piece by piece. After that, we'll connect the dots from the data to actual decisions, run the numbers on a real-world example, and finally, and this is crucial, we'll talk about the common mistakes to avoid so you can use this power wisely.
All right, let's dive into our first section. Before we get lost in the weeds of the math, it's so important that we understand the big picture first. What is this thing actually doing for a company? What's its purpose?
Let's use an analogy here. Think of it like a recipe. All of your historical data, your past sales, how much you spent on marketing, website visits, maybe even seasonal promotions, all of that stuff, those are your ingredients. And the formula we just looked at, that's the recipe card. It tells you exactly how to combine all those ingredients in what proportions to bake something incredibly valuable, a reliable, data-driven forecast of the future. It literally transforms your past into a roadmap for what's to come.
Okay, now that we get the what, let's dig into the how. In this section, we're going to pop the hood on our forecasting engine and look at each part. We're going to decode that formula. And I promise you, behind every one of those symbols is a simple, logical business idea. Let's break it down.
First up, let's talk about the Y vector. In the simplest terms, Y is your goal. It's the one single thing you're trying to predict. It's the question you're trying to answer. In business, this is almost always a key performance indicator, a KPI. It could be how many dollars in sales will we make next month, or how many new customers will sign up for our service. This Y is a single column of numbers, a vector, that represents our ultimate target.
So if Y is the goal, then the X matrix is everything you think helps you get there. These are the drivers. They're all the levers you can pull and the forces you can measure that you believe have an impact on your goal. Every column in this matrix is a different driver. So one column could be your advertising budget, another could be the number of visits to your website, a third could even be what your main competitor is charging. The X matrix is basically your complete dashboard of all the variables you think are at play.
And that brings us to the whole reason we're doing this, to find beta hat, or beta hat. This is the magic. This is the final output from our engine. If X and Y are the ingredients, then beta hat is the detailed recipe. It's a list of numbers, or coefficients, and each number tells you the exact weight, the exact importance of each one of your drivers from the X matrix. So it might tell you that for every extra $1,000 you put into advertising, you can expect sales to go up by $5,000. It quantifies the relationships for you. It's the secret sauce.
Okay, so we have our goal, Y, and our drivers, X. And we know we're looking for our recipe, beta hat. But what about that complicated-looking beast in the middle of the formula? The X transpose X inverse part. This is the piece that usually makes students nervous, but its job is actually incredibly smart and absolutely essential.
This is the brains of the operation. Its whole job is to measure and adjust for how your drivers are related to each other. Think about it. Let's say you increase your ad spend. Well, that probably also increases your website traffic, right? The two are connected. Without this part of the formula, you might accidentally give both ad spend and web traffic full credit for the same sale, which would totally skew your results. This term mathematically figures out that overlap and makes sure each driver only gets credit for its unique, independent contribution. It's what makes the whole model so intelligent.
All right, so the theory is solid. We've dissected the formula. But theory is one thing. Let's bring this into the real world.
Let's talk about how this math actually gets used when the pressure is on and big decisions need to be made.
I want you to picture this. You're a few years into your career. You're a business analyst. Your CEO doesn't walk up to your desk and ask for a beta hat vector. No way. They come to you with a real-world problem. They say something just like this: I need a solid forecast for next quarter. I've got a huge decision to make about hiring more people, and I need data to back it up. Make it happen. That's the job. They don't need the math. They need the answer the math gives them. This is why you're learning this.
So, challenge accepted. The CEO needs a number to make a critical hiring decision. Let's step into that role. Let's take some data and actually run the numbers to generate that forecast.
Here's our raw data. This is a simplified version of what you might pull from a company's internal records. You can see we've got the last 4 quarters. That sales column, that's our Y vector, our goal. And the ad spend and web traffic columns, those are our drivers. We're going to stack those together to make our X matrix.
Now remember, this is not guesswork. It's a rigorous, repeatable, analytical process. First, we assemble our X and Y matrices from that table. Step 2, we calculate the core of the engine, that crucial X transposed X negative 1 part. Third, we plug everything into the big formula and solve for our beta hat coefficients. And finally, the most important step, we have to interpret what those numbers actually mean for the business.
So, after we run all those matrix calculations and we plug in what we plan to spend on ads and the traffic we expect to get, boom, the model gives us a number. Our sales forecast for the next quarter is $455,000. This is it. This is the data-driven answer you can now confidently walk back to your CEO with.
And this is why it all matters. That number, $455,000, it's not just a number in a spreadsheet. It's a strategic guidepost. Your CEO can now make a smart decision about hiring. The VP of Operations can use it to make sure they have the right amount of inventory on hand. The head of marketing can use it to justify their budget. This one number, derived from mathematics, ripples across the entire organization and drives major business operations.
Now, this is incredibly important. With this kind of analytical power comes a whole lot of responsibility. Look, anyone can learn to plug numbers into software and get an output. But a truly great analyst, the kind of professional I hope all of you become, understands the potential traps and thinks critically about the results.
So let's look at what separates the rookies from the pros. A common mistake is just blindly trusting whatever number the model spits out. A smart analyst, on the other hand, always does a sanity check. They test for things like multicollinearity, that issue of drivers being too similar, and they are always asking if correlation truly equals causation. Just because ad spend went up and sales went up doesn't automatically mean one caused the other. A great analyst knows the difference.
So let's hammer this home. Here are 3 rookie errors that I want you to promise me you'll always try to avoid. Number 1, garbage in, garbage out. Your forecast is only as good as the data you feed it, always. Number 2, never ever confuse correlation with causation. It's one of the biggest intellectual traps in business. And number 3, don't forget the real-world context. Maybe sales shot up in Q4 because you launched a new product. The numbers alone won't tell you that. It's your job as the analyst to bring that crucial context to the table.
And that brings us to the end. We've gone through the whole process. We've delivered the sales forecast to the CEO. But our work isn't really done. The best analysts, the future leaders, don't just stop at the number. They use the number to start a deeper, more strategic conversation. So I'm going to leave you with one final question to think about. You present this forecast of $455,000. What is the single most important question you should then prompt your CEO to ask? Think beyond just the number. Think about risk, about confidence, and about the assumptions we made to get here.